What do CEOs need to know about sales these days? A lot. Outdated sales strategies and tactics plague most companies today. Listen to what innovative CEOs and experts have to say about how to change all that with Sales Talk for CEOs. Welcome to Sales Talk for CEOs. Boy, have we got a journey to talk about today. I have a founder with me who has started as one thing and pivoted to another and is having the usual founder conflicts that we have when we pivot. But what's so great is he found something and really niched into it. And I'm really excited today to talk to David Dulany, the founder of Tenbound. Welcome, David.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should have recorded the pre-show stuff because it was pretty funny, but I'm just going to tell the audience here that David used to work for Achieve Global, which is a company that Miller Heiman ended up buying after my dad sold Miller Heiman to private equity, and they started bundling up some other training companies and putting them together. So it was really fun for me to discover that when I was doing my research. I'm like, oh, David, you used to work for Achieve Global. So that was kind of fun.
It's a walk down memory lane. It was such a great experience and such a great foundational experience earlier in my career to get all that great training and Miller Heiman,
Oh
training.
my gosh. So fun. Yeah.
Really.
But anyway, we're here to talk about Tenbound today. So give us the short story of what Tenbound does today. And then we're going to take a stroll down memory lane and talk about how you made this pivot. So tell us what Tenbound does today.
Yeah, we're really focused right now on sales technology tools, and everybody wants that silver bullet in sales technology. And so they're looking for the best sales technology tools. And we've compiled this database on tenbound.com where we've got over 2,000 sales technology tools that you can research and look into to find the best solution for the problem that you're trying to solve.
And it's really beautiful and easy to use. That's what I love about it. So I recommend everybody go to Tenbound later on and take a look, especially look up the tools that you're currently using, and then look up any tools that you're considering using. I think you'll get a lot of great information to help you make decisions. So really good. All right. So David, before you started Tenbound, let's go all the way back about 8 years. What were you doing right before you started Tenbound?
Oh my gosh. Well, after Achieve Global, which is a sales training company and leadership training company, if you're not familiar with it, I'd always wanted to get into the tech industry because I'm here in San Francisco. And I got my foot in the door at Glassdoor when they first started, and they first started to go to market. That was right around the same time that Predictable Revenue came out with Aaron Ross. And I went in and pitched the boss there, we need to start a SDR team and sales development rep, team so that we can go out and get the business. And they gave me enough, rope, and we ended up starting the SDR team there and built up this practice of SDR sales development specialty. So when I went out on my own, I started doing playbooks and training and consulting with different companies that wanted to start their SDR team or to train their SDR team. And Tenbound was born.
Oh my gosh. All right. So who were you working for at the time, and how did you decide, okay, it's my time to go out on my own?
Oh my gosh. Well, I just stumbled into it. I had been already working for way too long in the corporate world, but I had always been like a wannabe entrepreneur. And so I would listen to all the podcasts and read all the books, and someday I'm going to do it. And I was between jobs at the time and talking to a friend of mine who's a CEO of a cybersecurity company. And he said, I need some help, with my SDR program. We're thinking about hiring a manager or maybe outsourcing. And I said, well, here, I'll come in and I'll do some consulting with you and I'll help you get the thing going. And that was my first client. And Tenbound was born.
Okay, so David, you're what I call an accidental entrepreneur.
That's correct. Yes.
And myself, I'm included in that accidental entrepreneur. But a lot of the founders that I talk to, it's like, yeah, I just sort of did it. It wasn't like for years I was thinking about this business and I made a plan. I wrote a business plan. I got nope, none of that. It's just like, yeah, just started it.
Yeah, it's weird because especially as you get kids and mortgages and all these
Yeah.
overheads, your dreams kind of start to fade, and it was just like an inflection point where, hey, I can do this. It's I have a set of skills and ability, and I was really interested too. I mean, it was a really fun time back in 2015, 2016 when all these new sales technologies were coming up, and there was a lot of buzz around this predictable revenue model, and I was really passionate about it. So I just a lot of things converged at the same time, and yeah, we
And
made it
that
work.
first client appeared, which is always wonderful, right? So it's
Oh,
like, oh, wow. Okay. I have a customer. Let's
no, I
go.
remember getting that check. I mean, it was a paper check. I don't know if anybody knows what that is anymore, but it was a paper check, and I brought it down, and I had to open a business account, and it was very back ass words. I won't say a bad word. Then usually people, around here at least, they come out of like Stanford Business School and they know everybody and they've got engineering skills and they start a startup. That was not my story at all.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So you had your first customer. It's just you, I'm assuming, or, how did you get started? So you went in there and did the work for that first customer, and then what?
Yeah, so they were really happy, and then other people that I've worked with over the years, since when I entered the tech industry, they ended up being sales directors and marketing managers, and they were like, "Well, my SDR team sucks,"
Oh,
or
right.
um, we're trying to build an inside sales team, and so that sort of Rolodex. I'm using all these old terms. The they started to know, and so they wanted me to come and replicate what I was doing at other companies or when we worked together, and so that was a source of business, and then we started doing the conference, and that's a whole other story that we can go into, but that ended up being another side of the business of Tenbound.
All right. So what was the point where you said, okay, I can no longer be the CEO and run this company and do all the, take out the trash and deposit the checks and all the stuff that we do, right? When we start up a company, I can't do all that and do all the selling. What was that point? What did that look like? And how did you proceed from there?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's so much trial and error with bringing people on board, and that could be a whole other podcast. But I initially, where I had success is people that I had worked with in the past, and some people from Achieve Global actually, and family members who just needed some part-time work.
Yeah.
And it was all online, all digital. We didn't have an office or anything like that. And through trial and error, you find, especially like a coordinator who can coordinate things. Because you probably notice I'm not the most linear person here. And then administrative help with making sure that all the trains run on time. Those were the first couple of hires that I made.
And to me, those are some of the smartest hires a founder can make. Oftentimes, they want to get the sales off their plate first, right? And especially when they didn't come from sales necessarily. So it's not their favorite thing to do, or they feel like they don't really know how to do it that well. And as you know, that is almost always a fail when we try to get the sales off our plate first, right? So I
Mm.
always recommend to CEOs when they're starting things up or making big changes is, hey, instead of hiring other people to do the selling, the part that you're doing, hire someone to assist you and keep you organized so you only have to do the part of the selling that you're really good at, and they do all the rest of the follow-up and chasing and sending, quotes and following up on all of that, right? And that frees you up to run your company and do the selling and not have to do all the chasing and remembering and finding. And because if we're founders, we're not good at that stuff, obviously. I mean, we wouldn't be here, right? So I love that you started off hiring some help. Where was the point where you thought, okay, we do need some salespeople?
Yeah, I mean, so, and it's interesting because depending on where the founder comes from, there's like real product people, and they just want to build and make cool stuff. And then there's me. I came from sales. I sold sales training, and then I was a sales manager. And
Yeah.
PR. So it was totally over indexed on building pipeline and making sales, and that's all I wanted to do all day. And so as a CEO, you have to become like a Swiss Army knife,
Right.
and almost more like a generalist. And that was hard to learn. I mean, I think that you just go with kind of what you're really good at, and you sometimes got to learn the hard way. Hey, if you're just a salesperson, you also have to think about product. Or if you're just a product person, you do need.
Right.
So that was interesting. Your question though was now I forgot.
My question was, so where did you go? Okay, we need to get some salespeople in here.
Okay, yeah,
We cannot grow any bigger with just me selling, and
yeah. I mean, I would, look at it. It was when we kind of found product market fit, that initial product market fit, and in our case, it was probably more service market fit. So there wasn't so much demand for the service, and and it felt like there were opportunities, slipping through the cracks. So it got to the point where me as the founder, my calendar was too full with running sales calls and doing prospecting, that there was enough work now to bring somebody else in. And the other thing is, being bootstrapped, there was no investment at all. Everything was run through sales, and so you couldn't get a couple $1 million from some company and go out and hire like 10 people all at the same time. So that's a little bit different for how I built this.
yeah. And
Yeah.
okay, so you hired a couple of salespeople,
Mhm.
and how did that go?
Yeah. It was okay. So it really depends on the person that you hire. I mean, and this is probably a debate that we could go into. This has been going a long time. I don't know if salespeople are born or made, or that's like the taste great, less filling type of thing.
Right.
In my experience at Tenbound, I could give two people that are amazing the exact same opportunity to sell our services or products, and one person could take it absolutely through the roof, and the other person just completely fail. And I don't know if if it's uh born or made or what happened there, but that's been my experience.
So, in hiring your first salespeople, there were a few
Mhm.
mistakes like all of us have made. Hire a couple, get rid of a couple, keep a couple, keep moving, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it really it was eye-opening in that one person can make such a huge difference to your company. And until you, I think, witness that as a CEO, you don't know the potential that your company has. And it's why, top talent is so expensive and
Right.
so hard, and why a lot of companies will be so selective,
Mhm.
in hiring people, because gosh, if you can hire just one person, they can make such a huge difference to your business.
Right, and especially with sales, and it is a bit of a trial and error, and I think especially in the early days, but I think it's always that way because salespeople are good at selling themselves during interviews, right? And so, we hire them, but also they could be really good in another setting and then come over to our setting and not be very good at all. So it's really quite a talent to hire salespeople well, any revenue generating positions, and so we all, I think, do a lot of trial and error on that end of things. But all right, so the company's growing. You've hired some salespeople. Some worked out, some didn't. pretty typical, right? And so, where are these customers coming from? Are you doing a lot of marketing? You mentioned events. How are you generating demand? How are these people finding you?
Yeah. So, and this is going back in the day. So, with advisory services like consulting and training, for in my experience, it's been 100% word of mouth referral. And so people would either they had worked with us in the past, or they had a good experience, and then they went to a different company, and then they would call us, or a VC, for example, had sent us a company to work with, and then they had a good experience, so then the VC sends us somebody else. It
Yep.
was very, very organic like that. On the As I mentioned, on the flip side, we would run events where we're selling sponsorships to different sales tech companies. That was much more of a like an outbound motion where if they had heard of Tenbound and they had a good experience at one of the events, then they would take a meeting and we would start that conversation.
Did you start the events? So, let's talk about the pivot, the pivot that you did. Did you start that so that you could start to get these companies, like you said, as sponsors? I mean, tell us how that pivot went, because here you are. And way back in the day, like we said, the days of Aaron Ross and predictable revenue, those are gone. But you were doing that and you were doing really well and you were making really good money, but then you decided to pivot.
Yeah, I mean, so it was kind of concurrent in that, and I was just being super naive, but I thought, why is there no sales development conference? There's all this buzz around the SDR world. There's all these new tools coming online, and people involved, and there's people getting promoted to become, directors and VPs of sales development, and I felt like there was a hole in the market, and I went to actually some some conference promoters who were doing things, and they just weren't interested in the idea. And so I said, let's do it. So we launched the first one in 2017, which seems like a long time ago, and they performed really, really well. People were, you had the tech ecosystem of all the new sales tools, and then you had the people who were really into predictable revenue, and we just brought them together, and yeah, it went really well. So
All right. So those were not intentionally started to do what you're doing now today, which
mhm.
is rating tools and, helping people choose the best tools for their purpose. But it sounds like it started it, right? The momentum came from there because now you know all these tech companies because they've been sponsoring your SDR conference.
Yeah. And I mean, and again, you connect the dots backwards. Like, this was not some grand plan like 8 years ago. But what we found is working with the SDRs and the inside salespeople, and at the same time, with all the new tools that were coming out, all anybody wanted to talk about was the tools. And they wanted to talk about, which tools do I buy, which is the best for my team, how do I integrate all these tools from a operations perspective behind the scenes, and and not to be like a curmudgeon, but not as much, at least in the tech industry, did they want to talk about, how do I skill my people,
Right.
in order to be better salespeople or to be better SDRs. And it's a little demoralizing that people don't want to invest in that in the tech industry. But hey, if they want the tools and they want to know about the tools and they want us to bring the tools together, we need to develop that as a resource.
Yeah, 100%. So where was really the big shift? As you realized, I know that both of us, a lot of us, everybody out there started realizing, oh my gosh, predictable revenue isn't so predictable anymore. Um, Using this SDR model, it's just like this. It wasn't even like a downward slope. It was like a cliff. And, it was like, wow, here we are, bam. So you started recognizing, that shift and moved into this new model. So where was that point? And tell us about how that worked.
Oh boy. Well, when we had zero interest rates, there was a lot of money going into starting companies, and the directive was basic. I mean, and this is again in the tech industry, so I don't have a lot of visibility outside of this little Silicon Valley bubble that I live in. But in the tech industry, there was this go-go time period where um, it was growth at all costs, and
Right.
hire a bunch of salespeople and hire a bunch of SDRs and just go out there and crush it. Buy every tool, that you can find, and we'll figure it out later. I mean, that was essentially what happened for a number of years. And then all of a sudden, yeah, at end of 22, beginning of 23, it completely reversed to, oh my God, we're not going to get any more investment money. Sales are stagnant. It's efficiency at all costs. And all of a sudden, the CFO started to show up on every call. At
Right.
Tenbound. Yeah. I mean, somebody would call up and go, hey, we need to train our SDRs, or we'd like to, commit to a sponsorship of your next webinar. And I'd go, okay, in the past, it would just, boom, it was done. And now the CFO's on the call going, well, what's going to be the ROI? No offense to any CFOs. I love CFOs. So it got
But it's
dicey.
exactly what
Yeah.
happened. I mean, you're describing it exactly the way we've all experienced. Like, why is there a CFO on this call?
I've never
Right?
met you
Like,
before.
okay, a marketing person, yeah, I expect them to pop on because it's a
Sure.
conference. They want to know about the sponsorship. That's great. But a CFO?
Yeah, I mean, and it's right at the end, so you've already spent the commission check, and all of a
Right.
sudden now so to make a long story short, in the SDR world, there was a convergence of factors. There was um, customer acquisition cost is really high
Right.
when you have to hire somebody, and then at the same time, there's all these tools coming out that promise to replace a lot of the drudgery and the repetitive, activities of SDRs and inside salespeople. And so, to make a long story short, what I see happening is there's going to be more operations people that are putting together all these tools and orchestrating the technology, and you're going to need fewer and fewer SDRs and salespeople, because a lot of the time consuming work that they've been doing is being offloaded to a computer.
Right. Right. So where did you really,
Mhm.
switch the website even? So it's like, hey, when you get to Tenbound now, it's all about those tools.
The tools, the shiny objects. um, yeah, so we started by putting together a market map, and this is going back 5 years. So first it was, okay, what are all the sales SDR specific tools that are out there? And so if you go back, the first market map had like 100 tools, and then the second one, if you've ever seen the Scott Brinker, it wasn't like that, but the second one had a 200, and then the third one had 400, and it just, now it's like got 1,000 on there or whatever.
Right.
And there were
Crazy.
just so many of these. And so these companies would call me and they'd go, hey, how do I get on the market map? and
Right.
and I would say, well, here, fill in this spreadsheet. And then after a while, it was like, I'm doing all these spreadsheets and everything, and I go, here's a directory online. Just go on to Tenbound, put in your company, put in all the information. It's free, and you do the work, because I don't want to do it anymore. And then the directory was born. So that,
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's
Yeah. So there was no strategic plan with this, map of how you were going to do this. It's just like one day you got tired of doing it. And so you're like, fine, I'll put a form on the internet and y'all can do it yourself.
I know, Alan. I'm sorry. I'm ruining your podcast. You're like, but I do have to say too. On the flip side, I would go to the big review sites that are out there that have raised millions
Yeah.
of dollars in funding, and they have tons of traction, and they're great. But if I would put in, specific things to sales, especially, I would just get this list of like random stuff, So you put in sales engagement and they come up with outsourced SDR companies, sales training companies, sales loft,
Yeah.
outreach, yada, yada. It was just like they're trying to be all things to everybody. And with our background and the expertise that we bring, we can really niche down on sales technology and make it more valuable. So there was some strategy to building this, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay in your lane and what you're good at, and then you can really choose. And so now today you have this beautiful platform, as we were discussing earlier, where very easy to use. People can go on there and check out these different technologies that they're using or that they want to use, and it's searchable and easy, and it's all sales related. There's nothing else in there to get in the mix when you start to search. So it's really quite lovely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So how
yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the ecosystem is not just software as well. I mean, it's Miller Heiman, it's sales training companies, it's outsourced SDR companies. It's go to market.
Nice.
That's the new
That's right.
thing. So there's just a lot of potential here,
Yeah.
and I've got the next. I mean, right now it's very bootstrapped and held together with duct tape and baling wire and stuff. But my vision for it is that you can come in and give your problems to Tenbound of what you're trying to solve, and then it spits out a customized plan. And they say, I don't know, Gartner and there's some research that people do like 80% of their research before they even talk to a salesperson.
Yeah.
And so, we can be a conduit of that research, and maybe you can do 90% without talking to a sales.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
absolutely. I really love that. And I just think, it's you think it'd be easier, right? But it's harder because there's so much information now, right?
Mhm.
And even you can go like to ChatGPT or Perplexity and say, "Oh, what sales tools should I use if I'm trying to do this, right?" But
Yeah.
it's kind of loaded because it's just can only pull what is on the internet that someone might have said, the conglomerate of all of that. When you have a site like yours where it's actually, proven, right? People are using these tools. They're telling you about them. They're telling you the ups and downs. It's really so much easier. So I
Yeah.
love that. And I love the platform. I love the direction. Now tell us how you sell this new, you've pivoted, and I know you still have some legacy, clients that are still doing the SDR work and building
Yeah.
their pipelines and all that good stuff with you. But really Tenbound is about these technologies and these sales tools and trainings and things that can really help your go-to-market strategy. So how do you sell that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I can figure out that right now. Well, so in the near term, the companies can come on and they can kind of zhuzh up their page and add videos and get rid of all the external links and make it look really, really nice as like a brand upgrade. And so everybody that's on the call right now that would like to go do that, we are open for business, and you can go ahead and do that. And then we have a bunch of media around that they can add, where they can sponsor the newsletter, they
Oh,
can sponsor webinars, they can sponsor a podcast, et cetera, et cetera. We have virtual conferences, where we can really surround the buyers with the solution of the vendor and drive some leads and some traffic back to them. So that's the focus right now.
all right. So right now it sounds like it's free to get on the page, no problem, right? If people have technology. And then if you want to zhuzh it up a bit, are we still free or are we paying a little?
Then we pay a little. I mean, it's a cup of coffee, honestly, Alice. It's a cup of coffee, and I mean, you know, the they can go on those more general sites and probably get millions and millions of exposure. But with us, it's SDRs, it's salespeople, it's directors, it's managers in our little
It's very
ecosystem.
specific.
It's
Yeah.
very specific. And so and it's a lot less to, use Tenbound versus one of those companies. And so I think it's terrific. It's a great opportunity. And
I love that. I love that. And it sounds like it's pretty self-serve right now. So you don't really need salespeople calling and saying, "Hey, do you want to get on our site or upgrade or any of that yet?" You're really self-serve.
no, I mean, we've got our team of folks who are reaching out to people strategically in the back end and just making sure that they're aware of
Yeah.
Tenbound and that they're aware that their site is up and it's free to join, and kind of seeding the market on the back end. So, and
Yeah.
then if they bubble up, then I talk to them and
Gotcha. Gotcha.
we hopefully close the deal.
More of a customer success model, really. It's like, hey, your page is already here. Can we help you make it, nicer? What would you like to do? And yeah, and then if they want to upgrade, this opportunity is there for them.
100%. I feel like it's more of a concierge model, and we're here to help, and we want to help you. And obviously, we're a for-profit, company, and so and what I'd love to see is that these tech vendors come together at another live conference, and it may not be this year. We're going to do something around Dreamforce. That's a small gathering here in September, but next year, we have the big Tenbound conference again to bring them together live.
I would love to see that. And I would love to see you have a special section just for the CEOs of all these tech companies so I can
Mhm.
talk to them
Yeah,
and learn and see what's on their minds. But
yeah. I mean, you offered to come, so I'm going to take you up on that,
yeah, yeah, I
Alice.
think it'll be great.
Yeah.
What my gosh, this has been great sharing your story. So before we go, I have 3 questions for you. And I think you're prepared because we let you know in advance. But we like to hear from our CEOs. Just a couple of things. The first one is, what is a book that you think every CEO should read?
Oh, well, I put my own book in there. That doesn't count.
Well, you're allowed to plug that and give me another book. How about that?
Thank you. Okay, so and this is an old rival. I don't even know if she's still around. Linda Richardson wrote Perfect Selling
Yes.
about 20 years ago, and I literally still, and I've read every book out there. I have this on my desk, and I go through it even more than the old PSS workbook that I have on my desk. Linda Richardson's Perfect Selling. I would highly recommend.
Yeah, excellent, excellent book. And I believe she's retired. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but that was another great sales training company out there competing against Achieve Global and Miller Heiman back in the day, right?
She
So,
was good. She was
yeah,
good.
yeah. All right. So, what's a podcast that you love because it makes you think differently?
Yeah, I think of Rich Roll, and if folks aren't familiar with Rich Roll podcast, he's this ultra marathon, polymath Renaissance man, and he brings on just a very wide spectrum of guests with all different philosophies and different opinions, and it just definitely gets me out of my comfort zone, with hearing from all these geniuses and different people that he brings on.
Yeah, good to get a wide perspective. I mean, I do listen to sales podcasts, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
I like to listen to science podcasts or people who are not in sales. I listen to a lot of marketing podcasts too, so that I think differently, right? And I'm not just
Yeah.
always of the same mind. So I love that. I'll have to check that one out because I don't know that one. All right, last question. What does every CEO need to know to win in this market today?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's the era of unpredictable revenue. That we've gone into. And I just apply the ancient philosophy of the scientific method, with my clients as well, in that we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what works right now. And so we have to go back to the scientific method of make a hypothesis,
Yes.
test it, track it, report on it, come back and learn what worked, what didn't, and then repeat the process over and over until we can find out what the model is.
And I think that is exactly right. And I think the companies who aren't doing that are really struggling because they're clinging to, but this used to work, right? Yeah, it doesn't work anymore. And you got to let go of it and you've got to start experimenting. I know you don't like that word, CEOs, but you've got to let your team experiment because they've got to figure out what your customer base is going to cling on to, what they're looking for. It's you've really got to get them to go meet their customers where they are, right? And try some things. And I think that is going to make the difference.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody knows what they're doing. So, and I know
Don't feel bad.
it sounds expensive and it sounds time consuming and it's hard, but anything worth doing is hard. So,
That's
and that's
right.
what we signed up for as CEOs. Right?
That's right. All right. Well, I'm sure that everyone wants to know how to find Tenbound.
Mhm.
So I know you were looking to get people to sign up for your newsletter list. So tell us about where people can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tenbound is tenbound.com, and we'll have the link in the notes for the newsletter. That's where you can stay on top of all the new advice and tools and everything that's coming out on Tenbound each week.
Wonderful. And if you want to see the beautiful platform, of course, just go to tenbound.com and you see immediately when you get there, it's showing you these tools and their ratings, easy to search. It's really just, it's awesome. So, David, I can't thank you enough for being on the show. You're such a good sport. Thanks for sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly
Oh
because
my
it's
gosh.
always more fun.
Well, I hope it's helpful. And if anybody wants to talk more about this, just give me a call. I've been there, done that, and happy to hopefully give you some good advice.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much and have a great day. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.